What's up, guys? It's Josh Lau and Nathan Crawford here, and today we got some pretty interesting content for you guys. This is going to be part one of two. In part one, we are going to talk about primarily Boltyn, but a little bit of Dorinthia. We're going to do a full set review of all of the Dusk Till Dawn Light Warrior, Light, and Warrior cards. And then we're going to go into a few of the decks that I built. And then in part two, which will be probably uploaded tomorrow, we're going to talk about the flip side, which is Vinset, and we're going to be talking about the Shadow Runeblade, Shadow, and Runeblade cards. If you are a Levia or Prism fan, find some other video.
Go to Mansant for Livia. That's all I could say.
But
just go to Mansant, yeah.
If you want the most in-depth Light Warrior, Light, and Warrior card review, I don't think you're going to find a better video. So we are going to go very in-depth. So we're going to talk about all the cards, and then we're going to talk about a few of the builds. So let's just jump into it. Not waste any time here.
Yep.
Normally I do these things by myself, but I think having a handsome and clever buddy is good to bounce ideas off of, especially considering that this is like brand new. It's
Absolutely.
very difficult to evaluate. Anybody that says they know exactly what they're talking about is
no
like,
shot.
it's no shot. Like
Yep.
I've thought a lot about this set in the last few days, and I've realized a lot of new things, and just listening to other people, looking at the Discord and social media and all that. There's a lot of depth to this set, so I'm really excited that that this set is coming out. So let's just jump into it. So we've kind of structured it, all the cards. You kind of see how we did it. We tried to make it like a logical structure. So the first thing that we're going to be talking about is the two new Light Warrior equipment cards, Beaming Blade. So I know that there's going to be a certain amount of people that are going to be watching this without their eyes. They're just going to be listening to this. So I will read all the cards for you guys. So Beaming Blade is a two-handed Light Warrior weapon sword, and it has once per turn action for a cost of 2. You may attack. And it says, if a yellow card has been put into your hero's soul this turn, this gains +5. So, a few things. It says, put into your soul. Doesn't say charge. This is a sword. Okay, so all the swordy things, like Razor Reflex, Courage of Blade, Hold, Twinning Blade, these are all pertinent to it. It is a two-handed weapon. And it also has a base of 0, right? So anytime you're running with a base 0 weapon, there is a threat of being fatigued, right? So, and of note, this weapon costs 2, which is significantly more than Raiden, which is effectively the same card. Raiden says that if you charge, you get +3. So Beaming Blade is actually a build-around weapon. There is a build that one of the 5 builds that I'm going to be showing you guys later is a Beaming Blade build, and the Beaming Blade build basically needs to utilize, because of how important Iron Song Versus is to the general game plan of Boltyn, you need to be pitching for that plus the Beaming Blade, so you need to be generating 3 resources a turn, right? But this card stipulates that yellow cards must be put into your soul, plus yellow is a giant theme for Boltyn. So the way that I kind of thought about how to do that is Vestige of Soul, right? So we run all the 0-cost starters, and we run things that either give it a buff, like the new Light Warrior Nimblism, Courageous Steel Hand, or just having a Courage token to give the ability to give it go again. And then you would pitch a yellow, which effectively becomes a blue, and then Beaming Blade would come in with the Iron Song Versus on hit, like the Courage token on hit, right? And so you can kind of do that. That seems to be quite a bit of value. Whether or not that's good or not, to be seen. But we'll talk more about Beaming Blade when we talk about the the deck, because that's like a whole archetype. Like new equipment and new, especially weapons for warrior, dictate the whole deck, right? So
Absolutely.
if you're building Beaming Blade, you're building the whole deck around it. So I think Beaming Blade
Right.
Fetches a Soul is a possible build. It's actually probably the most fun build out of the five that I've built. So we'll talk about that later. Any other thoughts on Beaming Blade?
Yeah, I've also seen Vera was playing around with one that ran the Library of Solana. And for those of you who don't know, you can actually beacon a victory out the library,
Mm-hmm.
because it just says action card, right? Um, and and you can find that, use that as a way to acquire the library earlier in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you build up enough soul, there's a very efficient play with library that you can simply just play your charge card and then double pitch 2 yellow to swing Beaming Blade twice. Um,
Mm-hmm.
basically is the
So
or
how?
not swing it twice. Sorry, not swing. So with Lumina, you can swing it twice.
Mm-hmm.
You have that ability. So what you're doing is you're leveraging the resource cost on Beaming Blade as a way to um get the 2 yellow cards in the pitch zone to raise your intellect to 5 with the library.
Yep.
And if you ever draw a Lumina with a literally, you can literally just play your charge card or find a way to put a card in soul, and then you can literally just pitch 2 yellows and swing for 6 twice, and do the
Yeah.
whole Lumina whatever.
Yep.
So it's an interesting build.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely slow in the early game, but it's worth looking
Mm-hmm.
into
Yep.
for sure.
Yeah. The other way you can do that, which I think is actually slightly more efficient and less cute, more competitive, let's just put it this way, is to
Sure.
build your deck with 15 blues, and then
Right.
whenever you find a Lumina, then you would be pitching the blue, which would become a 4 cost, and then you would
And do the same
Lumina
thing.
swing
Yep.
swing, right? Um, and that basically turns your, like, coming in for 6 or 7 with the Lumina effect twice is pretty dang good, especially considering you
Yep.
heal. So you're effectively getting 7 or 8 value off of your Lumina, which is pretty high considering this is not a combo deck. Um, okay, so yeah, there's lots to talk about, lots to explore for that card. Let's move on.
Yep.
Soulbound Resolve. This is a light warrior equipment chess piece that defends for 2 with temper, and it says when this defends, you may charge your hero's soul. So charging is putting a card from your hand face up into your hero's under your hero card. The first time you would be dealt damage each turn. If you charge this turn, prevent 1 of that damage. I joked when I first saw this card. I jokingly said this is a 5/6 of a carrying husk,
Yeah.
and I think that's mainly what it's going to be used for. It's just going to be like
Yeah.
effectively a 3 block and a 2 block that gets you a little bit more soul. Just this is not the flashiest card, but it is like, it just helps that whole light warrior mid-range plan, because it gives you gas, plus it gives you excellent defense. Of note, there's only one way to charge on your opponent's
Right.
turn in this. So it says charge, right? So soul shield doesn't work here, halo doesn't work,
Right.
so like there's only one way to take advantage of that. We'll talk about that when we get to the bannerets. And so I don't actually think you're going to be like trying to charge that banneret in particular, but you're just going to put something into your soul, maybe make a courage, maybe make a quicken, and then kind of go from there, right? So those are those two, the courage banneret, the quicken banneret,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess the defense banneret would be the ones that you want to charge. But you could also charge Spirit of Arena as well.
Right.
So that kind of effectively turns Spirit of Arena into a 1 block, which is nice.
Right.
Okay. Anything else to talk about?
Yeah, I think that card is the way that I look at it is it either takes any card that's not a banneret and basically turns it into one, because you are able to extract value from putting it into soul,
Mm-hmm.
or it just amplifies something that is already a banneret, right? Some of those can't be utilized on the defensive, like the gain resource one, or
Mhm.
I mean, I guess it could, but
Gain
it's
the health
very,
one.
very,
Yeah.
yeah. There's very few of them that can be, but like the Quicken token and the Courage token are bonkers with this card because you can just go ahead and bank those,
Mhm.
and works very well.
Yep. Okay. Gonna be a role player for sure. I think so. The comparison obviously will be to Courage of Bladehold and Tunic. So Courage of Bladehold is going to be just for the combo decks, I think now. I think if you're running the mid-range Raiden or Beaming Blade, you're going to be running Soulbound Resolve. As for the Tunic, I feel like the Tunic is just maybe just not quite strong enough anymore. Based on how the like you either want to pitch every turn with Boltyn or you don't. There's not
Right.
really the whole waiting 3 turns, have a good turn, waiting 3 turns, have a good turn. Like that's not the play style that I envision Boltyn having.
Mhm.
So this will basically replace Tunic, which is good news. That will reduce the cost of the deck.
Yep.
Uh, but spoiler alert, the deck will probably go up in cost just in general because there's there's other pieces that you need. But
Yep.
all right, so let's move on. All right, so when we talk about power cards in this game, generally we're referring to the majestic cards. These are cards that are so powerful that the developers are like, we can't let them run 9 of, because if we give them access to the rainbow copies, they're going to run the rainbow copies, right? Now, of course, there are cards that are effectively like majestics, like Mauvrin Skies, Warriors, Valor, Old Plunder Run, I guess, right? Where
Yep.
you would basically be belittle, right? Belittle
Right.
minimalism. But yeah, so there's 3 cards here that were given to the light warrior class, and these are very, very good indicators for where the game designers uh, kind of, if you ask the game designers like how they intend you to play the hero, the best place to look is at the majestics, right? Because these
Right.
are often very, very defining. If you look at the old majestics, things like uh, well, not via the Vanguard, but majestics and specializations, right, are the key
Right.
ones, right? So let's talk about these 3 here. So the first 2 are very, very similar in that they are 0 cost charge cards. 0 cost charge cards. We now have a pretty high density of them now. We now have 6 of them. We have 3 from Monarch, and we have Beckoning Light, Spirit of War, and then we have the other one that we're going to get to. Still
Mhm.
not good on names yet.
Yeah.
As you can, I've referred to the bannerets as that banneret, right?
Better.
Um. Anyway, so these are a little bit different because they're stipulating that you have to charge a yellow card, right? So Beckoning Light, 0 cost, 3 attack, 3 defense, light warrior attack action that says, as an additional cost, you may charge your hero soul. If a yellow card was charged this way, whenever an attack action card hits this combat chain, you may put an attack action card from your graveyard on top of your deck. So the giant synergy here is with Helm of the Sharp Eye. So being able to effectively choose what you draw off of Helm is huge. Uh, Helm of the Sharp Eye was a card that if you drew the wrong card, like maybe you flipped over a Valiant Thrust, but you didn't have the pitch for it, sad. You flipped
Mhm.
over a blue Engulfing Light, and you're like, eh.
Right.
Right? So this allows us to basically kind of use this as pouncing links in Phi. We get to kind of dictate what we want, right? So whenever we hit, we could put a good card on the top of our deck. We swing Raiden or swing Beaming Blade. We could crack the helmet, banish the card, continue to play it, right? So
Mhm.
this is going to be a pretty important card simply because of the fact that it synergizes with Helm of the Sharp Eye. Any other thoughts on Beckoning Light?
The way that I look at it is like I see like a little mini anti-fatigue loop. It's not a true anti-fatigue loop because in the execution of it, you have to delete a card via charge. But if there is a match where there's very little opportunity cost paid here, if you are say going against a guardian and there's always that chance that they could just try to fatigue you out, this is a great way to just get anywhere between 9 to 15 just more threat density inside the deck with just 3 cards. So I think it's a great role player there. And you just put your power cards back on top, if not cycling itself, whatever. More Luminas are fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. Attack action card only though. Oh no, yeah, attack action card
Oh
only
yeah,
though.
oh yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well then get V.
Yeah.
There you go. Problem
Yeah.
solved.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Of note, if you're playing the one that has like, I think my cost curve was literally 6,690. If you're playing that style, this is one of the few red cards in your deck, right?
Yep.
So next to it, Spirit of War, 0 cost, light warrior attack action for 3, defense for 3. As an additional cost, you may charge your hero's soul. And this one says, if a yellow card was charged this way, whenever an attack action card hits this combat chain, create a courage token. So this is kind of like I wouldn't say it's like Steelblade Supremacy, but it's basically saying you need to block me this turn.
Right.
Because if you don't, and this is one of those cards is that if you could combine this with the correct few other cards, maybe a Helm activation, you could get a ton of value out of this single card. If you could create 2 or 3 courage tokens, that's going to be pretty nuts. It does say attack action card though, so it's very unlikely for you to get 3 courage tokens, but it's very, very possible for you to get 2. And this is one of those cards that basically says it's kind of like Combustible Courier. It says you basically have to block. If you don't want to block, I get value. And the thing is, Boltyn is pretty difficult to block if you're certain classes. So, and then again, it's just another 0 cost charge card. Any other thoughts on that?
I think it's fantastic. The only thing that you have to be careful of, the value of this card diminishes the lower your soul is. So if you're like kind of low on soul, it just strictly gets worse. Because you're not able to, like if it said quicken token every time you hit, that would be insane, because then it would just be like a soul preservation tactic. But it's still very, very good. I think it's red cards come at a premium in Boltyn, especially after the set release, and I think this is one that's going to make it into just about every list. Because it's one of the few ways to manipulate the game and say, okay, whether you block or not to activate my hero ability, I'm gonna have the ability to give my attack go again if you let this hit. So
yeah,
I think it's solid.
Yep, good card. Okay, and the third card. This is a card that I think a lot of people are kind of split on. It's Prayer of Balana. So 1 cost yellow, light warrior action that defends for 3. It says your next attack this turn gets +2. Reveal the top card of your deck. If it is yellow, put it into your hand, then charge your hero's soul. Go again. So at worst, this is yellow come to fight.
Oh, it's so much better than that, though. It's so much better than that.
This is one of the very, very few cards that the main issue with Boltyn was that you basically were playing with the card down, right? And this this basically allows you to charge. It does everything you want for Boltyn, right? It gives your attack a buff, it charges your soul, and it just costs you 1 card and a pitch, right? And there's quite a big deck building restriction though, right? You'd probably want it to hit a yellow at least 80% of the time, right? That's roughly that's kind of the heuristic that I use, is like 80% for actions that don't lose you the game immediately, right? And for 90% consistency for things that would lose you the game. Um, yeah, I think this card kind of just does everything, and it's going to be a pretty important role player. Any any other thoughts on this?
This might be a little bit of a hot take, but I think it's one of the best cards that Bolton got in this set. And here's my explanation. I think Bolton is going from a how to give go again problem without this set to a I always have the ability to give go again, but I have no soul.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest problem to solve as a Bolton player right now is how to make sure you always have enough soul, because it's so easy. It's so incredibly easy now to play a charge card, do something else to give it go again. So that's 2 cards out of soul if you're continuing the combat chain, and then swing a weapon at the end. So, but you only put 1 card in soul. So there's a net negative there. Whereas this, the line of prayer into Valiant Thrust is insane because it's great value. It fits a yellow cost curve. And the most important part is it's +1. So the next turn you can execute that 3 wide, take 2 cards out of soul to provide the go again. I think the biggest problem to be solved in this deck going forward is how to have a surplus of soul, which is why I think cards like Celestial Cataclysm and stuff will very quickly make their way out of the deck, just because you're not going to be banking soul that much. You're going to be kind of like begging for it and using it kind of as soon as you get it, unless you get put in a bad spot. But I think it's an amazing card.
Yeah. There are several cards that can assist with generating soul over time. Take Flight, Soul Shield, Seek Enlightenment, if you're kind of getting cute.
Right.
Via the Vanguard, if you double charge and you only use the go again once. And the spiciest way is soul food.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
So yeah, there's several ways to do it. I do anticipate there being kind of like a little bit of a soul issue. That's why some people started to cut Engulfing Light. I'm like, I don't know if I'd cut Engulfing Light just yet. Like yellow Engulfing Light, yellow Bolt of Courage seem pretty useful because with Courage tokens they come in for 3 or 4, right? So it's pretty decent value there. Okay, so these 3 majestic cards give us a good direction of where we want to go.
Right.
All right, let's continue on and talk about the Light Warrior Bannerets. So there are 6 of them. 3 of them come in majestic, 3 of them come in rare. But in this case, the majestic and rare doesn't really matter because they only come in 1 pitch color.
Right.
They're all yellow. So the Banneret of Courage, Gallantry, and Protection cost 1. They are Light Warrior attack actions that come in for 4, defend for 3, and they each have a different bonus. So Banneret of Courage, when it's charged, creates a Courage token, which is when you attack with a weapon or attack action card, destroy the Courage token, and that attack gets +1. Banneret of Gallantry, this one gives a Quicken token when it's charged. Banneret of Protection, when it is charged, gives you a Spellbane Aegis token. Okay, so the rares, these cost 0. Banneret of Resilience, when it's charged, the next attack action card you defend with this turn gets +1. This is the only way to utilize the legendary, but it's not really the best way to do it. Banneret of Salvation, this one, when you charge, the next time you hit this turn, gain 1 life. And Banneret of Vigor, the next time you hit this turn, gain 1 resource. These are all excellent cards. These are all very, very good cards. The Courage, Gallantry, and Salvation and Vigor, these are the best ones. Banneret of Courage, it has Helmetless Boltyn in the art. Need I say more? It is a good card. So this, you can charge this on offense or defense. You could start if you're going through like the whole mid range thing, and then you don't like you attack with your Raiden with the Iron Song versus buff on it, and they block it, and you're like, oh dang, I don't have a courage token anymore. When they attack you back, you block with your chest piece, charge Banner of Courage in there. You start the turn with a courage token. So you could just, same thing with Banner of Gallantry. These are the two cards that you're going to want to charge on defense. Banner of Salvation and Vigor, these just create on-hit effects during your turn, which is something Boltyn really lacked, right? Now that Boltyn has a decent amount of on-hit effects, the first line of his hero ability is going to become very relevant, right? Because it's like, well, I really don't want Boltyn to gain resources. I really don't want Boltyn to draw cards. I really don't want Boltyn to generate courage tokens. I really don't want him to gain life. I don't want him to put cards into soul. But I'm Dash and my whole deck blocks for 2.
Right.
So, yeah, it is what it is. So we talked about the Banner of Courage and Gallantry. Those are the ones you want to charge on defense, but you can charge them on offense. It's fine. Of note, though, the Gallantry may get kind of wasted if you use a starter, charge Gallantry, and then your Raiden has go again, or your Beaming Blade has go again. You would need a follow-up, right? So
yep.
That's the one where you might not get full value from. Banner of Protection, this is probably decent enough that if Runeblade becomes prevalent, having 3 extra HP over the course of the game is probably good enough. And if you charge Banner of Protection on defense, you might be able to create a situation where you actually negate all their arcane damage for that turn. Maybe, depending on how things line up, right? Banner of Resilience, this is the one we talked about that's going to be quite difficult to use. This feels like a card that's set up for later. Maybe in the future there'll be in Monarch Part 3, Return of the Monarch or whatever they're going to call it. This card will get better, but currently Banner of Resilience is not very useful. Banner of Salvation and Vigor, these are the ones that you would want to use on offense, because it would give you a on-hit effect on your... Maybe it gives your card a second on-hit effect as well, right? So, yeah. I would see most decks running 12. I could totally see a deck running 15 as well. The Banner of Resilience, I really feel like we'd have to be in a very particular meta for that to be good. Any other thoughts?
I mean, I think where I would rank them is I think there's Courage and Gallantry, and then there's like a mile gap, and then there's like Salvation and Protection, and then another mile gap, and there's Vigor and Resilience. I don't think like they're not even close kind of thing. I don't see much of a point of playing Resilience and Vigor. I don't think that Boltyn, if you're building Boltyn where he can actively gain from Vigor, it's probably not a very well constructed deck. I mean, you might be able to make the argument, oh, well, you can throw it into verses, right? Well, you should already probably be doing that. You shouldn't be waiting for one of 3 card to turn that on. So that seems like a deck construction fallacy. So
this would only help if you needed like 5 resources for some reason on a Vestige of Soul build.
Right. And so my personal opinion is if I was starting to build a Boltyn deck, I'm actually only throwing in 9 of these. At most. Courage and Gallantry will go in any Boltyn deck ever in the till the end of time until they make better bannerets. But I think Salvation is another solid inclusion, and like maybe just depending on the meta, it's whether it's Salvation or Protection to go up to 9. But you don't want too much of these because then you're starting to get like Runeblade symptoms of like drawing 2 of these in a hand, and that's just they do pitch. I understand that, but like the downside of kind of bad attacks.
Yeah, the downside of drawing multiple of them is that you can always just charge one of these and then use the other one for pitch value. That's not the
Mm-hmm.
worst, but uh, like you said, I do generally agree. You probably will. I think 12 is okay, but
Yeah.
I have to kind of play it and see.
Yep.
You know what I've noticed about these 6 warriors in the pictures?
Hmm.
None of them have helmets.
Nope. Not a single one.
All right, moving on.
Got
All
it.
right.
Artists don't like drawing helmets.
Yep.
Got
Nah,
it.
yeah, exactly. That's like,
Speak of the devil. Every one of them's got a helmet.
yep. All right. So let's move on to the rare and common light warrior attack actions. They gave us 3 of them in the set.
Mhm.
So the 2 of them are 0 cost, 1 of them is 1 cost, and they all follow the same formula of if it costs 0, it probably attacks for 3. If it costs 1, it probably attacks for 4. So let's talk about Beaming Bravado first. So I guess we need to talk a little bit about how the distinction between a rare and a common matters a little bit in this game because of the commoner format, right? So
Mhm.
it's more likely that the rare is a little bit more powerful, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so Beaming Bravado is a 0 cost light warrior attack action. Attacks for 3, defense for 3. As an additional cost, you may charge a hero soul. If a yellow card is charged this way, this gets +1. Almost strictly better Express Lightning.
Yep.
This is a very, very, very important addition to the deck. Basically, giving you a way to have go again on a 0 cost by itself is really, really important. That's something that Boltyn did not have access to. The only way before was with Take Flight or literally
Yep.
keeping another card, Courageous Steel Hand. This is a excellent card. The yellow will probably see the most play. Possible that aggressive decks that aren't going for the yellow synergy will play the red. If you're playing the combo Boltyn, this slots very nicely into things. So I actually see the combo Boltyn kind of sliding into a 0 cost curve so that they can always activate Gallantry Gold.
Mhm.
So yeah, Beaming Bravado, excellent card. It's better Express Lightning. Any quick thoughts on that one?
No,
Or
you
is
covered it. I mean,
okay?
any card that allows the opponent not to have agency over go again, I'm all
Mhm.
for it.
Yep. Yeah, that was a major issue of the past was that
Right.
you had to assume that your opponent was not going to give you go again,
Right.
which heavily restricted the amount of playable hands that you could have as Boltyn.
Right.
Okay, next, Glaring Impact. This is a 1 cost 4 attack light warrior attack action to defense for 3. It says you may charge your hero soul as an additional cost. If a yellow card is charged this way, this gains overpower. This is not where you want to
Not
be.
a nope. I'm not a fan. This is
This
probably one of
the
the worst cards you got.
if this said dominate, maybe it's better. For some reason, there's we've noticed some design trends. We've seen them
Didn't they
go.
release a didn't they release a rule thing that consolidated the 2 words?
Mm, no, because they're different. Dominate says 1 from hand,
Yeah, I
and
thought they
then
did a rule
that
reprise and
that
kind
was
of like,
that was with route. Like you could defend
oh, that's right. Yeah,
with
yeah, yeah. You're
with
right.
defense reactions again from hand. Um,
Gotcha.
Glaring Impact has overpower, which is you could only defend it with 1 action card, so you could defend it with like multiple
Hmm.
attack reactions or D reacts or whatever.
Right.
So this is a card that might see play later if they print cards like Nimblism Plunder Run for Light Warriors. It says your next attack gains +3, and if it hits, draw a card, something like that. That might combo well with Glaring Impact. But as it is right now, um, unless you are playing a deck that uses 1 cost starters, you probably aren't going to be using Glaring Impact at all. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, I just think it's
Cool
a
art though.
lukewarm pot. I think it's a lukewarm pot of hot dog water is what I
Yeah.
think it is. Like
Fair enough.
it's just not it. On a
Okay.
competitive stance. It's a neat card. The art's great, but
Yep. It's one to watch for later. Like if they print the correct 2-card combo, this is gonna be fine, right? Because Boltyn actually doesn't have access to dominate, so this is
Yeah,
it's pseudo
yeah.
dominate.
If the
Yeah.
meta, if Boltyn never becomes a major part of the meta, and the easiest way to combat Boltyn is fatigue, then this card could be
Mhm. Yep.
relevant.
Yep. Okay. Light the Way. This is a 0-cost warrior attack action that attacks for 3, defense for 3. It's an additional cost to be charged a soul. When this hits, if a yellow card was charged this way, this gains Go Again. Not bad, not amazing. This is one of those cards, like you said, gives agency to your opponent.
Mhm.
But it is fairly effective against most decks. The only way to shut down this card is to defend with a non-attack that blocks for 3. So if you're
Or one that
blocking,
blocks for 4.
or a non-attack that blocks for 4, yes,
Yeah, Briar,
yeah, yeah. The yeah, just the stipulation that you have to hit is a little bit tricky, but I think it's still a decent card. The yellow probably is good enough in the mono yellow deck, and again the red, like the red versions will probably be played in combo because they really want the 0-cost charge cards.
I'll tell you
Um,
why I like Light the Way. And it's because when you play Bolt of Courage, right? For those of you who don't know, Bolt of Courage is the one that allows you to draw a card when it hits.
mhm.
Well, why do you play Bolt of Courage? Well, it's because you want to draw said card, right? But the problem with Bolt of Courage is it's such a good on-hit effect that it very highly incentivizes the opponent to block it, which may be your strategy. But the power of Light the Way is it's just good enough to be a good effect, but it's just bad enough, especially in yellow, that your opponent would be like, yeah, I'll take 2. But then Boltyn saves a soul, right? And like that's actually like
Yeah.
super relevant, right? Like that's what I mentioned earlier was the number one problem you're gonna have to solve.
Mhm.
So in yellow, I think this card is actually fantastic because everybody's just going to want to eat 2, and that's
Yep.
just going to play right into your game plan.
Yep. And of note, if this has courage attached to it, it becomes 3, and then there's like, oh well, I guess I just have to take it.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
Because if I block it, it's my block's inefficient. They're just gonna give it Go Again anyways.
Yep. And you can't
So
get screwed over by a late D-react either, because if they say no blocks and you pass on reactions and they cover it up with a D-react, you then have the opportunity, if you've applied a courage token or some type of pump, you can then activate Boltons.
yeah.
So there's no risk in that situation if you're worried about that.
Yep. Good card. Okay. Uh, one of the most underrated card actually. Okay. Let's move on to what I like to call the Light Warrior other cards. They're printed 3 of them for us. So the first one, V for Valor. This is a 0-cost, comes in rainbow, just like the last page. And this is a light warrior action aura that defends for 2. And it says, as an attack reaction, you may pay 1, destroy this, and charge a hero's soul. This is a cost, right? So you have to pay 1, you have to destroy this, and you have to charge a hero's soul. Target attack gains +3. So this is incredibly hard for me to evaluate here. My very first thought was that this was really bad.
Mhm.
But there is being able to store up effects like this on the board are powerful. Just like EPOT has implied value. The classic example is when Warrior attacks you and they have 1 card in hand and an EPOT on the field. It doesn't matter how many cards are, how much pitch is left in their pitch zone. That could be overpower, right? So same with this. If there's a single V for Valor on the board, I think it creates a nightmare scenario for your opponent. The only downside though is that like if you like, let's say I attack with Bolt of Courage and I don't charge and V for Valor is on the field. it has to be this, right? It has to
Right.
be,
Right.
right? So your opponent's gonna block for 6, move on with life, or block for 7, right? So V for Valor, this is actually +3 or +4, right? So it's not just target attack gets +3. It's target attack gets +3 or +4.
So is
And
the
it
charge
applies.
part a part of the cost?
Yes,
So if you do not have a card in hand, you cannot activate this.
correct.
They just got a lot worse for me.
Mhm.
It got a lot worse.
Yeah. Everything before the colon is a cost, and you have to pay the whole thing
Gotcha.
to put it
Gotcha.
as a layer. Um, yeah, I feel like when you're activating this, when you have a 5-card hand and you're counting with Bolt of Courage with no charge, like it's obvious what you're doing. The only thing I could see is that maybe this allows you to get to a bolting blade slightly easier.
Mm.
Or this is a decent turn 0 play, but it's not the greatest because you're not in charge your soul.
Right, exactly. Like
Yeah, so
you're giving
I'm
up cost there.
this is one that very, very difficult to evaluate. My gut says it's probably pretty bad, but we'll see. We'll see. This is one that I have my eye on. Right. Okay. Next, Resounding
If
Courage.
the charge was optional, it's great, but if because it's mandatory, I don't think it's great.
Okay. Okay. Resounding Courage. 1 cost, Light Warrior attack reaction. Needed some of this. Hey, and this one blocks for 3. Unlike the other one. It says target Light Warrior attack gets +3 if you've charged this turn. Create a Courage token. So this is a very good card.
It's great. It's great.
This
It's great.
is super good.
Yeah.
Now this this card is not going to go in every deck, but every deck that doesn't mind pitching each turn, this is
Goes
an
in.
all-star.
Yep. Yep.
And this is a card that you are totally fine running the yellow, because the yellow gives you +2 and a courage, just like giving it 3, right?
Yep.
You could run the red as well if you're a deck that's not so focused on the yellow line. And it blocks for 3. It's a really good card. Does stipulate Light Warrior, but the way that you build Boltyn generally these days is basically all Light Warriors, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah. Does everything you want it. It's strong.
I love it.
Yep.
I love it. You just have to be careful of when you use it, right? So like you want to use it in a situation where you're going 3 wide, not just 2 wide, right? If you're going charge, then like Raiden, then this is like not great because then it's just damage. But if you go charge into another attack that the courage can apply to, that depending on whether your opponent blocks or not, you now negate that and you can keep going, right? So I think that is a small prerequisite, but other than that, I mean, I do agree the yellow's better than the red, strictly because half the cards are asking for yellow light cards, and yeah, I think it's great.
Yep. Good card. All right, Charge of the Light Brigade, 0 cost Light Warrior action, defense for 3. It says the next attack you charge this turn gets +3. Go again.
I want to love this card so bad,
It's
being a Runeblade player, but it's so bad.
it's not quite what you want.
Yeah, it's not.
In the 0 cost Cheerios Boltyn build, it's fine.
No.
But the main issue is that like only the red is good.
Yeah, and red's not good in Boltyn.
And red is not good at Boltyn. That is
right.
kind of the issue.
Exactly. That's like it's a super nimblism, right? And I'm all about some nimblism, but yeah, the yellow is just bad value. You're only getting 2. You're not getting a courage token, no quicken token, nothing like that. I think literally if you built like a 0 cost red line Boltyn deck that just all it was doing was just playing 0 cost tax and swinging Raiden, sure, throw the 3 reds in there, call it a day. But other than that, I don't think it'll see play.
They'll probably see play in commoner. This is
sure, absolutely.
This is excellent in commoner, if I had to guess. All right. So I believe that wraps up all the Light Warrior cards. So let's move on to the light cards. Up first, we got the Radiant Equipment Cycle. So this comes in all 4 slots. I will just read Radiant View, which is the light equipment head. As an instant, you may banish, not may. The wording in this game is very particular. Instant, banish this and a card from your soul. That is the cost. Prevent the next 2 damage that will be dealt to your hero this turn. The only place I would see this is the Radiant Flow, which is the legs, in Blitz. Because Radiant Flow plus Halo can basically help you against Wizard. But even then, when I first read this card, I thought it just said, banish a card from your soul, prevent 2 damage. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah.
Okay. I don't mind that. No, it's not. It's not that. It's banish this and a card from your hero's soul. So, maybe playable in commoner here and there, but I would say they're probably better equipment. The only one I could possibly see is the legs. Anything else to say about this? It's not.
Nope.
Not much.
That's it. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Moving on. We got a massive card. Light of Soul. Sorry, Shadow players. We get 2 Fables from Monarch. Light of Soul. This is the Fable from Dusk Till Dawn. It's a yellow pitch, light resource gem. It is a legendary, so you can only have 1 in your deck. And it says, when this is pitched, reveal the top card of your deck. If it is yellow, you may put it into your soul. I think this is probably a staple of Boltyn, which is a little bit scary because when you say a card is a staple and it is a Fable, that is dangerous territory because we're probably talking rainbow foil of this being at least $100, right?
Right.
The effect is very strong. At minimum, like, let's say you reveal the top card of your deck. Oh no, it's not a yellow. Well, then it's probably a red and a good target for Helm with a Sharp Eye. Right? And if it is a yellow, this just generates more soul. 1 or 2 extra soul over the course of the game. Probably worth the fact that on the turn that you draw Light of Soul, you're forced into a particular play. If your hands are consistent enough, I think this is just an auto include to include Light of Soul. But if your Boltyn hands are not consistent, then Light of Soul may not be good.
I get calling it a staple might not be the right word because I'm just comparing it to like Heart of Findale and Icelander, right? Where like that is a significant upgrade because every time you pitch it, you can kind of manipulate the life, right? In a manner to where you actually gain value, right? And even then, it's only like a small gain, it's not huge. Whereas this one even has some implied risk on it. So I do think it'll be played. I do think it is a piece that will min-max in Boltyn, but I don't think you're losing if you don't want to spend the $100 on it. I don't think you're losing a whole lot, right?
There was it's one of those cards that we're gonna kind of have to see but it's the opportunity cost, like you remember back I would run Gorgonian Tome in my Boltyn deck because it's like, well, if I draw it before my Runeblade opponent, I just charge it, right? So Light of Soul is like, well, if I like at worst you just charge it, right? So like if you have to block with the other 2 cards or something, right? The only downside is that does Beaming Blades stipulate you have to charge?
No. Yes, you. No. Raiden says you have to charge.
So actually, you could block for 3. Pitch Light of Soul, YOLO is Beaming Blade. So this might be slightly better in Beaming Blade than Radiant is what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think the best thing on the card is the word May. You flip over that card and it's like a really strong power yellow, like via the Vanguard or something like that. And you don't want to charge it, you don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's actually the best part on the card.
Yep. Okay. So let's talk about some other light cards. So there are three. I think this part of our discussion is going to go much faster than the light warrior cards because these are
For sure.
actually not entirely relevant to Boltyn. So we have
Yep.
three. United We Stand, 3 cost, 2 pitch, 6 attack, defense for 2. Unity. When this defends together with a card from hand, if Boltyn is in your party, create a courage token. Blah 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 blah. I'm pretty sure Boltyn is in your party if you play this as Boltyn, but we haven't
Yep.
got complete confirmation of that. Not that greatest card because it's a it's a popper, but unless you're dying for extra poppers, this is I mean, this I guess this is competing with like invigorating light red. I guess slightly. It might be
Right.
barely good enough if you need more poppers. That's the only. It's very unlikely you're actually going to get a good. Actually, it's possible you get a courage token out of this, right? In non-popper matchups, but
Yeah, well, obviously it's a light action, right? So the only two heroes currently that can play it is Prism and Boltyn, right?
mhm.
And I don't think a courage token is worth getting a unity effect off of a 2 block. If it was a 3 block, I see it. You know, like I think the value's there. I do think a spectral shield is worth it. I think Prism can find ways to extract enough value, and plus, like in the mirror match, right, where stuff like that's very important. You have it's a popper that's not an illusionist card. You know, like the only hero I see in the game currently that kind of has business playing this card, I think currently is Prism.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that you should put it in your Prism deck. I'm saying she's the only one that should have the conversation.
Yeah, and Prism does like non-illusionist poppers because if Prism becomes
Yep.
relevant, then having Celestial Cataclysm plus United We Stand gives her some agency in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's talk about what I think is the biggest trap card in the whole set for Boltyn. Lumina Lance. This is a 0 cost yellow pitch majestic light attack reaction. Blocks for 3. As an additional cost to play this, banish up to 3 cards from your hero's soul. Choose that many modes. Target light attack gets +2. Target light attack gets, when this hits, draw a card. Target light attack gets, when this hits, it gets go again. So the third line of text is irrelevant unless you literally are selecting mode 2 and 3. So the reason that is the case is that Boltyn's hero ability says if it has higher than his base, it gets go again. This is on hit, it gets go again, which is worse, right? So you're never going to be selecting the third mode, ever, basically. So the question is if you select 2 modes, is it good enough? Not really, because the second mode is a card cycling. You're basically trading Lumina Lance for a random card from the top of your deck. Not the greatest. If you're choosing the first mode, you're trading 1 soul for 2 damage. That's okay, but not amazing. This is a card that I think is built for Prism, much more than Boltyn. Prism needs a way to use her soul without having, especially the new Prism can't just spam spectral shields with the soul, right?
Right.
I guess the new Prism was going to be using them for figments, but awakening figments. But I still think this card is you probably play one of. I don't even know. I'm kind of a wait and see on this, but my gut says this is probably bad.
Yeah. The whole video I've been talking about how Boltyn has to find ways to conserve soul, not expend it. So this goes completely against my opinion in the deck. And I mentioned earlier that I think Celestial Cataclysm will make its way out of every Boltyn list for that reason. And this, to me, is just worse than Celestial Cataclysm. So, Boltyn doesn't really have an on-hit effect that he's like really trying to push. I mean, there are some good ones like Bolt of Courage, but like at what cost are you pushing that? Is the problem. And I think it's just for Prism, you know, the +2, these heralds need to really hit for Figments kind of thing. But yeah, that's it.
You think about how insane like all three modes are on Prism on certain.
Oh, it's great for Prism.
Like,
yeah,
like if you can ensure the attack hits, replaces itself, the card it becomes card neutral, and it gets go again, which
yep.
It's yeah.
The only counterpoint I would make to that is if you have 2 to 3 cards in Soul, obviously your opponent has been letting these heralds hit. So you really don't need combat tricks to let the future ones hit.
That's true.
They're letting them hit. So it's kind of like a win more kind of
exactly
mentality there. Not saying it's bad in Prism. I'm just saying be careful. Don't just slap 3 of them in there. Maybe it's like a good one of kind of thing.
Okay. Radiant Force Field. This is kind of weird one. 0 cost, yellow pitch, light instant aura. If your hero would be dealt damage, banish a card from your hero's soul to prevent 1 of that damage. When there are no cards in your hero's soul, destroy this. Probably a PvE card.
The only use I see for this card is if there's ever an illusionist build that is built around protecting ward triggers. This is great. Like, you know, maybe you're trying to establish like 1 angel and all you want is that 1 angel and you're just trying to make sure that the ward never triggers. Maybe this is because it is an instant, right? You're not giving up anything to play this card except for the card itself, right?
Yep, it's 0 cost, yeah.
Yeah, so like there's not a very high opportunity cost here. I do think that it does need to lean very heavily into what you're trying to accomplish. And I think the only thing that I can conceptualize right now is just like a ward prism that's trying to prevent things from triggering.
Sure. Okay. All right, so those are the Majestics. Let's move on. So we have 3 rares. Late Arrest, Blessing of Salvation, Cleansing Light. I don't think any of these are particularly relevant, but we will read them nonetheless. Late Arrest, 1 cost, 5 power light attack action that defends for 3. When this attacks a shadow here, it gets +1. When this hits a hero, you may turn a card in their banished zone face down. I guess the shadow heroes would have to become very popular for this to even remotely see play. Of note, I mean, we can't actually, you know, poo-poo on 1 cost 5 attack action cards. They're not bad historically, but you'd have to have the right deck to utilize 1 cost 5 attack 3 blocks. Blessing of Salvation. This is a 1 cost light action that defends for 2. If a card has been put into your hero's soul this turn, you may play it as though it were an instant, gain 3 life. Nathan, do you remember the card Rejuvenate?
Yep, same thing.
Have you seen anybody play Rejuvenate in CC?
Nope.
All right, so that basically sums up this card. I don't see how this would ever be good unless literally like, yeah, I don't see it. It's interesting design wise. Maybe it's for PvE. All right, Cleansing Light, 3 cost. So this comes in red. So all these come in rainbow, right? Cleansing Light, 3 cost. I'm going to read the red one. If a card has been put into your hero's soul this turn, you may play this as though it were an instant. Destroy target red aura. So the red destroys red, yellow destroys yellow, blue destroys blue. Light action that defends for 2.
I think the yellow one's good.
The yellow one, I guess that would be targeting the angels.
Spectra. Right? Yeah. Well, I guess blue or yellow. Either one could target. You would pick whichever one applied more to the Prism meta and what they were playing. But like The blue one kills things like shimmers and
Mhm.
stuff like that, and the yellow one takes care of merciful and stuff like that. And
Is it worth it to play 2 cards though? It's 2 cards and no action points, whereas they had to play 1 card and an action point. So
oh, it costs 3.
yes, it costs
Yikes.
3. Yeah.
Ooh, I didn't see that. Probably not, to be
Yeah.
honest.
That's what I thought. The only possibility is like
Iris Prism or Iris Stroma, that was like heavy,
I,
heavy blue,
I'm
maybe. But you have Go again there, so you don't need that. Yeah,
yeah.
no, it's bad. Yep.
Okay. Okay. Reading the card explains the card, guys.
That's a
All right.
fact. That's a
All
fact.
right. Next, common light cards. They gave us 4 of them. Blistering Assault. This might be the worst card in the set. I don't know. 2 cost. 2 cost, 5 power, 2 block. If a yellow card is in your pitch zone, this has Go again. Huh.
You could translate that to a 0 for 3 Go again. And there's
Yeah.
not a lot of 0 for 3 Go again, right? Because you just scale down the cost from the attack and it blocks 2. How many people play 0 for 3 Go agains? Like the only thing I can think of is Swarming, but half the time it's 0 for 4 and Swarming blocks 3. So
Tatsu does.
yeah,
well,
that's
those have
about
natural
it.
Go again though. Yeah.
Exactly. And so yeah, this card just doesn't do it.
Yeah. Defender of Daybreak. 0 cost. Light attack action that attacks for 4, defense for 2. When this defends a shadow attack, non-equipment light cards get +1 this combat chain.
Good situation.
I would rather have a 3 block than a 2 block that gives +1 to something else.
I mean, I do like it's a 0 for 4 and it's a light card. So
that is true.
But I'm a Briar
Illuminate
player,
is just
so,
better though.
correct. So like I got a soft spot in my heart for 0 for 4s, but that's all I'm looking at that card. I see 0, I see 4, and it's a light.
Yeah.
None of the rest matter.
If you want 0 for 4s that block for 3, with not 2, play Illuminate. Alice has an on-hit effect. All right, Searing Ray. This is a 1 cost, 4 attack, 2 defense. If a yellow card is in your pitch zone, this gets +2.
I think it's decent.
This is decent. This is actually decent. This is kind of reminds you of what was that? Push the point a little bit. Like 1 cost, 4 power, defend for 2. So like these that can come in for 4 or 6 have been historically okay. Is this better than Yellow Valiant Thrust? Not really. Sometimes.
I mean, it's the same, isn't it? Is it a 1 for 6?
Valiant Thrust blocks for 3 and pitches for.
Sure.
It would pitch for 2 instead of 1. So.
Okay.
I think we're kind of spoiled for choice, so I don't think Searing Ray will make it. All right, final card: Break of Dawn. 0 cost. Light instant. The next time a shadow source would deal damage this turn, prevent 4 of it.
That's so bad.
Unless the shadow sources are dealing arcane damage in giant heaps, which
it's
they
not
aren't.
It's not damage from a shadow hero. Yeah. It is literally the card has to say shadow on. Like, it's just not. Maybe in a cube block or something, but like not in CC.
If this said the next time a source would deal damage to you, prevent 4 of that,
still wouldn't be good enough.
It's still probably not good enough.
Right.
It's probably okay, but because it's like just as good as Sync, and you can also use it against magic damage, right? Mm-hmm. So, but the stipulation for Shadow is just too high.
Yeah.
And Rosetta Thorn is not a Shadow card, huh?
Nope.
So it's not even like Oasis. Okay. All right. Okay, so that I think that wraps up all the cards. JK. We have a whole section here. All right. For those of you who have been waiting, hi, Dorinthia fans. Nice to see you. We're going to talk about these 5 cards here. I guess we have to talk about them in the context of Dory and in Boltyn.
Sure.
All right, let's talk about the Decimator Great Axe. So this is a 4 power warrior weapon axe, 2-handed. Once per turn action, pay 3 and attack. The first time this is defended by a non-equipment card each turn, have the base defense of target defending card rounded up. 3 becomes 2. So if the first defending card is a sink below, well, that sink below blocks for 2. You will, when this is the first time it's defended, you choose a target, right? This card is one of the most interesting cards in the whole set for me.
Mm-hmm.
4 power warrior weapon has not happened before. And 4 is a very important number. Not only is it a breakpoint, but it also speeds up your clock tremendously. Mm-hmm. And this is a very difficult to defend weapon. So this is actually a weapon that I think can spawn a whole archetype. I built a deck with several of the axe pumps and sharpened steel and a lot of defensive cards, and I think maybe you could grind it out that way. It would definitely be built in a more defensive deck, right?
Mm-hmm.
With blue focus, utilizing the Warriors 3 blocks, and good fridge. Probably equally fine in Dory and Boltyn. Which one is actually better actually depends on the perception of people,
right,
of those heroes, right? Because when you flip Dory over, people assume you're Dawnblade. You flip Boltyn over, people assume you're probably on combo or aggro, right? The least likely thing for somebody to expect is, oh, they're playing fatigue Boltyn,
mm-hmm.
right? So yeah, it's what it is. I think this is a card that's going to need to be explored a little bit. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. Just it's the best. It's the most consistent single card best value in the game currently. Theoretically, if you try to grind your opponent out, this is technically a 1 card for 5 because they're going to lose 1 block if they do block it. If they don't block it, then they have 10 turns. And the choice is theirs, right?
Yeah.
And what will make this card great or not is the meta, right? If there is a meta where there's nothing particularly explosive, this will be a great way to just steal games. If there ever becomes a lot of combos, like Icelander makes a big comeback, this gets way worse. So it just really depends. But yeah.
All right. Next card is Bastion of Unity. Hey, Sword and Board is back. Or not back, but introduced, I guess. This is a warrior equipment offhanded defense for 1. Has Unity. When this defends together with a card from hand, it gains +1 until end of turn. And this card has Temper. So when Bastion of Unity was spoiled, the full set wasn't out yet. And I was like, oh, that means we're getting a one-handed.
Mm-hmm.
Spoiler alert, we were not.
Mm-hmm.
So you have 3 options, technically 4 options with this Bastion of Unity. Centauri Saber, Hatchet of Body, Hatchet of Mind, and Quicksilver Dagger. You're never playing Quicksilver Dagger with this, and Centauri Saber is strictly better than the axe. So you are playing Centauri Saber plus Bastion of Unity if you're playing with this card.
Yeah.
My first thought was that this plus the fridge actually probably beats Chain and Blitz by fatigue. Because it was often very, very close, but I think this extra 3 health is just what you needed as Dory.
Right.
Plus blocking all the Plunder Run triggers. This is perfect for that. As for CC, I don't know. I don't think the situation is quite right for this. Because 3 life matters way less in CC than in Blitz.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a
I want.
Sorry.
Yeah. So I wanted to love this card. I think this is the card that Shadow Runeblade should have gotten, but did not. And I really wanted Vincent to get a shield as an offhand, as like another option kind of thing. But just like you said, there's no viable reason in CC to run this with sabers.
Mhm.
There just isn't.
Yeah.
The only thing that I can fathom is if you built a sabers Boltyn deck and there was like one deck that you needed to fatigue or something, it could just be like a one sideboard slot,
Yep.
increase your armor kind of thing. That's it.
Yes.
That's all I can think of.
Yes. That is one of my builds. Is a combo deck that has Bastion of Unity, and
Yep.
some of the matches you're just going to fatigue them.
Right.
Because combo of Boltyn already runs a lot of the defensive cards, so it's like
Mhm.
just add a few more defensive cards, slap
Right.
on a shield, and you're good to go. All right, Iron Song versus. This was my spoiler card. I already talked about this card quite a bit.
It's been covered.
But so you can go watch the spoiler video if you want more information on that. But TLDR, this is excellent in Boltyn and great in Dory, right?
Yep.
So A+ in Boltyn, A- in Dory, right? The Courage Token generation gives Boltyn an on-hit effect, which is really, really important. Raiden used to not be blocked ever, basically. And Dory, this makes her 1 or 2 card hands better. This also creates breakpoints, which is nice.
Yep.
If you want the full review, go watch the world premiere for that. Course of Iron Song, 1 cost, yellow pitch attack reaction, warrior attack reaction that blocks for 3. So Dorinthia specialization, so no, sorry for you, Boltyn. Boltyn didn't get a specialization this.
Oh, he got one in the last set. He got or in Dynasty. He got Arena.
That's true.
So.
Yeah. Okay, it says until end of turn, target Dawnblade. So not target sword, not target weapon, target Dawnblade. Gets +1, and damage this would deal cannot be prevented. When this defends together with the card from hand, create a Courage token under any number of heroes' control. So, if you're playing against Kano, you control them. They play their 1 nourishing emptiness. You can
for 7
block it and like, here, you can have a Courage token too.
But you can't trigger Unity on Dominate.
You're right. You're right.
Okay,
you're right. Oh, okay, never mind.
Okay.
Okay, never mind. Okay, you don't need to bring.
Yep.
You don't need to bring 2 Courage tokens then. Okay. This is basically a sideboard card against the new Prism.
Yep.
Not much to be said. If Olden was still around, this would probably be somewhat useful as well. And if Oasis Respite becomes very popular, this might see some play. But other than that, you probably just open up 2 sideboard slots and call it a day.
Yep.
Of note, it does cost 1, which is kind of annoying. So, but is what it is. All right, finally, the most thematic card of the whole set, Morlock Hill. This is a blue pitch, 0 cost warrior instant. The next time you would be dealt lethal damage this turn, you may banish Minerva from your hand or arsenal to prevent that damage. So Minerva is a warrior mentor, which means you can only play. The only time you would play Morlock Hill is in Blitz.
Yep.
And Minerva stipulates, like, you're not playing Minerva generally in Blitz. Yep. So this card is just thematic.
Even if you did, you have to draw it when you're about to die. Yeah. Like it ain't doing it.
And it would have to be an instance where like you're being dealt so much damage that a 3-block
you actually get value.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool card. But this might be one of the few purple cards we have in Warrior, actually. Most of our stuff is like copper, goldish, whitish, yeah. So it looks like a Runeblade card. Okay. All right. Now, let's finally move on to the 5 builds. So, this video has been going quite a while, so I do want to just be brief when we talk about these 5 here. So,
we've kind of already covered like a lot of them. Just give like a synopsis, you know.
Yeah. So, sure. So, Cheerios Boltyn. This is the very first deck that I thought of. This is a deck that's running all 0 costs. The only time it's going to pitch is for Via the Vanguard, Helm of the Sharp Eye, and Iron Song versus. But in general, it's running all zero cost charge cards, and it's running Courageous Steel Hand as its pump of choice, and it's trying to rush them down. So that was the very first idea that came to mind, right? The second deck I built was a combo fatigue style Boltyn deck. So this is a deck that deals with a majority of the matchups with the Sabres combo. So the differences between the old Sabres combo and the new Sabres combo is you're taking out things like Take Flight, putting in some zero cost charge cards, and that just creates a more smooth combo plan. And then you add the the shield, the warrior shield, and you can fatigue some people with a very, very heavy defensive sideboard. In theory, that should work, and it's also very, very tricky. Yellow aggro, this is the deck that I talked about that was like 6-69-0. This is probably the most traditional deck, so it's running the really powerful red Majestics. A ton of yellow cards, like I think I have like Cross the Line in there as well. Like you need enough charge cards, and you're only running yellow charge cards, right? So there's a limited amount of them. You're going to be running Braden in that build, and this is the deck that the developers probably wanted us to build, right? So this is the deck that's going to be pitching once a turn, either for the one cost starter, or the Iron Song versus, or the one cost follow up. Some combination of those, right? So you pitch a yellow, you pick your combination, right? And then you kind of just go from there. So that's the yellow aggro deck. The Big Blade Boltyn style, this is the Beaming Blade that I was talking about. So this is the deck that's going to utilize Vestige of Soul. It is going to start with a zero cost starter, and then it will pitch a card, which will get an additional resource because of Vestige of Soul. And then it will, proceed to Iron Song versus into Beaming Blade, and then rinse and repeat. On the Lumina turns, it'll try to set up Lumina so that it draws a blue, and then it will pitch the blue, which will pay for 2 Lumina swings. Finally, we have the Decimator style, which is this is basically Boltyn's Tree Frog Dash impersonation. So you take all the really, really cool Tree Frog Dash cards, you throw them in the deck. Then you add all the blue light charge cards, throw them in the deck. You add in a couple of other cards, and like Sharpen Steel, Cleave, and then the one that buffs the weapon by a bunch, just to increase the clock. So I think in that deck, you're going to be obviously pitching for the weapon, but sometimes you're going to be using the Tunic for Cleave. And anytime you draw Sharpen Steel, you're just not going to be blocking with Sharpen Steel. You're going to play Sharpen Steel and then swing with the weapon. Same for the I forget the name of that the one that increases the axe by 6, costs 3. So in that case, you would keep 2 blues and that pump, and then you would play it out. Just to increase the speed, because I think that because you don't have a disruption and you're basically playing a control deck, you don't want the game to go too long, right? So those are the 5 builds that I've kind of thought about. Any quick thoughts on those?
No, yeah, we kind of already hit them, most of them. I'm most interested in the Decimator, and probably the Cheerio, just because I look at the game through like a lens of kind of value. Is typically how I do it, and those just seem like low-hanging fruit and easy ways to approach it without like trying too crazy of strategies, right? Not saying that they're the best or anything. I'm just saying that if I was starting the journey of building a Boltyn deck, those are the 2 I would start in, just because they're more value oriented.
Yeah, there is 1 or 2 other things that I kind of want to talk about. There are cards from Monarch that we now need to take a look at again. The 2 cards are Tome of Divinity and Library of Solana. So Tome of Divinity costs 4 light instant. Draw 2 cards. If a card has been put into your soul, draw 3 cards. there definitely could be potential there with this card, especially in combination with the Vestige of Soul. Um, there might be a kind of nutty hand with what was it, Crown of Dominion gives you a gold token, right? So
Hmm.
there could be some crazy combo where you draw a ton of cards on a particular turn and just go for like the widest turn ever.
Hmm.
Um, there could be that could be deck number 6. I haven't built it, but that could be something there. And then the other card that I think we need to talk about is Library of Solana. This is a card that it's it's possible for Boltyn to utilize it. I think you brought it up really briefly
Hmm.
that you might be able
Yep.
to pitch 2 yellows in a turn. And what hero is going to be able to destroy Library of Solana in this
Right.
current metagame? Like, even Prism can't destroy Library of Solana anymore
Right.
because she's probably blue based. So that those could be good.
Hmm.
All right. Okay. I asked on Discord for questions and I got a lot of them. Let's quickly answer a couple of them and we'll wrap this up because this video is getting very, very long and we still have to record part 2. Okay, let's pick out a few from the Boltyn chat. Let's see. All right. Let's see. I guess the viability of combo. Combo is probably still viable. The thing is, they've started to print some cards that kind of mess with you. There was the sensor card.
Yeah.
There. It seems like LSS doesn't really want us to combo too much anymore. Uh, yep, Decimator. We already talked about that. The Royal Cash-In style. There could be a yellow aggro deck that's running the. So the thing is with Helm of the Sharp Eye, I think that's just better than Cash-In plus the gold token, just because you could actually set it up pretty consistently now. I don't know if there's a reason to use the Helm of Dominion anymore, but it could be. Um, Tunic versus the new chest, I already covered. Um, Decimator, Great Axe, and Blitz.
I don't know about that.
Uh, it's probably better in CC because
Yeah.
you have a longer amount of time to utilize it. And in Blitz, people can use their equipment for burst, which is hard for the Decimator Great Axe to deal with. Um, Library and Vestige, we already talked about. Choosing combo versus Raiden in the upcoming meta pool of heroes. I think it used to be like 70-30. You'd play combo predominantly and Raiden as your backup. If you're building a hybrid deck now, I think predominantly you're
It
going to be
flipped. Yeah.
building
Yeah.
Raiden and you're going to be choosing Saber combo for very particular matchups where you know they don't have disruption, which
Right.
means we have to wait until a few tournaments have showed up and look at the top lists and then figure out what our game plan is, right? Bringing combo into a unknown field is a little bit
Bad
tricky.
news.
You want to know what you're fighting against. Um, okay, I think that basically covers it.
Yep.
We kind of covered a lot of the questions indirectly. So,
Right.
okay. I think that's going to wrap us up. In summary, Boltyn got a ton of new tools. Dory got some new tools as well. There are a lot of possible builds for Boltyn. Here are just a few of them that I came up with. You can find the links to these deck lists in the description. I think Boltyn can definitely be a player in the coming meta. And if there's any hero that kind of shakes up the meta, it's probably going to be uh, I think Boltyn or Leviah would probably have the best shot.
Mhm.
Just from my first glance at things. Um, any closing thoughts?
No, I think Bolton got some upgrades. And he's definitely better. I don't know if he'll be like, tier one or anything,
Mm-hmm.
but all that I know right now is that he is a better hero.
Yep.
Whether that puts him at the top, I don't know. That's we'll have to let the
Mm-hmm.
brewers cook and see where it goes from there.
Yeah, it's a ton of incremental advantages. It's not just like codex of light or something, equivalent,
Right,
right?
right.
You're given a ton of small things, and this is a hero that is extremely hard to analyze until you play with it. So
Right.
we'll see how he performs in the coming weeks. Um, and yeah, after a few weeks of testing, I will present to you my official recommendation, I guess,
Yep.
and deck tech for that. Okay, so I guess that'll wrap us up. Uh, Part two, we're going to be talking about Vincent. So that will be probably uploaded tomorrow. So for those of you who are Shadow Runeblade fans, that'll be coming out soon. All right, so this has been Josh and Nathan with the Card Guys. Thanks for joining us. We hope you have a good day.
Take care, everybody.